You know the alphabet, right? Great! If you don't know why they look like they do, then let's get into that. Okay, kids? Great! A was originally an ox. Let's see how it turned into the letter A. Now the ox has turned into the letter Aleph. You might already know Aleph from the Hebrew alphabet, or Aleph Beit, and this is the first early form of it. There is another early form of it, and you can see this is the second early form of Aleph. It's pretty easy to draw because it's basically just a sideways A, right? And this is the original Greek letter alpha. We have one more form before we get to the letter A. That form is the Etruscan one. The Etruscans called this letter ah because this letter made the sound ah to them. And finally, the letter turned into the letter A like we have now. B started out as a house. Let's see how it turned into the letter
B.
Now it turned into the letter Beit. Again, Beit is from the Hebrew alphabet, and this is the first early form of it. This is the second early form of Beit. This is the original form of the Greek letter Beta. The Etruscans called this letter Bay. And finally, it turned into the letter B. C started out as a stick. Let's see how it turned into the letter C. This is the first early form of Gimel from the Hebrew alphabet. This is the second early form of Gimel from the Hebrew alphabet. This is the original form of Gamma from the Greek alphabet. The Etruscans called this letter K, but not the same as our K. And finally, it turned into our letter C. D started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Dalet. This is the second original form of the Hebrew letter Dalet. This is the modern and original Delta from the Greek alphabet. And finally, the letter turns into our letter D. E started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Hey. This is the second original form of the Hebrew letter Hey. This is the original form of the Greek letter Epsilon. And finally, it turned into our letter E. F, U, V, Y, and W all originate from the first version of the Hebrew letter Vav. This is the second version of the Hebrew letter Vav. When Vav got to the Greeks, they split it into two letters, Upsilon and Diagamma. Upsilon evolved to be Y, V, U, and W, and Diagamma became F. H originated from the first version of the Hebrew letter Chet. This is the second version of the Hebrew letter Chet. This is the first version of the Greek letter Eta. And finally, it turned into our letter H. I and J both originate from the Hebrew letter Yod. This is the second version of the Hebrew letter Yod. This is the original version of the Greek letter Iota. And finally, it turned into our letter I and J. K started out as the original Kaf from the Hebrew alphabet. This is the second form of Kaf from the Hebrew alphabet. This is the original Kappa from the Greek alphabet. Finally, it turned into our letter K. L started out as the original Lamed from the Hebrew alphabet. This is the second version of the Hebrew letter Lamed. This is the original Lambda from the Greek alphabet. And finally, it turned into our letter L. M started out as the original Mem from the Hebrew alphabet. This is the second form of Mem from the Hebrew alphabet. This is the original form of the Greek letter Me. And finally, it turned into M like we have now. N started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Nun. This is the second form of the Hebrew letter Nun. This is the original form of the Greek letter Ni. O to us. O started out as an I. Now it turned into the first form of the Hebrew letter Ayin. This letter was Ayin to the Hebrews, Omicron to the Greeks, and O to us. P started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Pei. This is the second form of the Hebrew letter Pei. This is the original form of the Greek letter P. And finally, it turned into our letter P. Q started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Kuf. This is the second form of the Hebrew letter Kuf. This is the only form of the Greek letter Kopa. For some reason, they didn't keep it, but they did get rid of it and replace it with their Kappa. But while the Greeks had this letter Kopa, they did pass it down onto us and into our alphabet. Voila! Q. R started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Resh. This is the second form of the Hebrew letter Resh. This is the original version of the Greek letter Rho. And finally, it turned into our letter R. S started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Sheen. It looks pretty similar to the modern Sheen, right? This is the second form of the Hebrew letter Sheen. It looks more similar to the modern Sheen than the other Sheen does, right? This is the original form of the Greek letter Sigma. It looks pretty similar to the modern Sigma, right? And finally, it became our letter S. T started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Tav. This is the second form of the Hebrew letter Tav. This is the original and modern form of the Greek letter Ta and our letter T. Lastly, I've saved the best for last, Z. Z started out as the original form of the Hebrew letter Zayin. This is the second version of the Hebrew letter Zayin. This is the original form of the Greek letter Zeta. And finally, it turned into our letter Z. Now it's time for the new English alphabet song. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, and Z. Thanks so much for watching. Sing with me. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time, won't you sing with me?